Breakfast. Let's get the latest underwater news from Jeff Dudas over in Miami at underwatertimes.com. Hello to you, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing, Whammo?
I'm very well, thanks, and I'm rather excited about the first story. I do like a good story about Vladimir Putin and his exploits. What's he been up to?
He's always doing something crazy. He goes on these summer vacations, and one year I remember he was tagging whales, and they showed him in a little dinghy going out tagging a whale.
Yeah.
And he was on a horseback another year, shirtless.
Yeah.
Well, last summer he was out scuba diving in the Black Sea, and evidently there was this archaeological study going on underwater, so he decided to go scuba diving. And miraculously, he comes up with these two giant urns, these ancient vases that he just found.
Of course he did.
And sort of a once-in-a-lifetime sort of deal. And he just happened to find them. He comes out of the water, and his pictures went all over the world.
Yeah.
Of him doing this, and the Russian media was fawning over this. Well, as it turns out, as was suspected, this was all staged. And the Russian media guy was saying, well, of course it was staged. They found them like a week earlier and just placed them there, and he happened just to find them there. And I guess photographers just happened to be there. And,
yeah.
It was. He said it was a perfectly normal phenomenon. What happened?
So he's suggesting everything else is staged as well, then?
Well, that's a whole nother story, but just the whole deal was just so Putin could see how this looks in reality, and
and that was the Russian media that let the cat out of the bag.
Well, yes. I mean, they came out with this big story, and I know it was carried everywhere. I know the British media in the United States. I ran the story, so it went all over. So
and in all seriousness, of course, that person from the Russian media, they could be in trouble.
Well, I think they sort of play around. I mean, I don't know. It's all sort of an inside story, it seems like, so I don't know.
He's running for president again, so we're bound to see more of these kinds of stories and his crazy things that he does out in the wild.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's look at another issue. The Philippines' lone double barrier reef is in a bit of trouble, but they're using some unusual methods to protect it.
Yeah, and this is a big problem all over the world, especially I know in Indonesia and the Philippines, is these reef blasters, these fishermen that go out and drop bombs on the coral reef and blow them up, and the fish sort of float up, and they scoop them up. It's a terrible problem. I mean, it's sort of like cutting down an apple tree if you want to pick a couple apples off. It's highly destructive, destroys the reef. And they were sort of scratching their head. They had all these laws against it, and they were trying to persuade the fishermen not to do it. Nothing worked. So the town decided they came up with this novel idea, and this is the first I've ever heard of this. They sunk these holy icons, the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus. They made a little grotto out by the reef, and they sunk like this 14-foot tall statue, weighs 4 tons. They sunk it by the reef. And they figured that the people are very religious, and they're sort of revere these icons, and they wouldn't blow up the reef if they knew they were down there. So evidently it's working. I mean, they're trying a bunch of other things to get them not to blow it up. But
yeah, well, who wants to blow up the Virgin Mary?
I wouldn't want to be responsible for that. So I think that was sort of. I was thinking maybe they would seed the whole reef just in random spots, but they didn't say that. But.
Yeah.
Evidently, this is working.
Yeah, good on them. Whatever works. Finally, some research into fish behaviour.
Yeah, these are Australian researchers. Were trying to figure out what types of fish were being caught using different techniques, either through sort of a net that or open in open water with just a regular pole. And they figured out that the timid fish actually hide in the weeds and sort of in the rocks, and the bold fish are out in open water. So if you're a netter and sort of close into shore with these giant nets, sort of scooping up fish, more than likely you're catching timid fish. If you're catching one out in the open water, that's a bold fish.
Right. Well, I suppose that makes sense.
It sort of makes sense, but evidently this is sort of the first time they've made a connection between the type of fishing technique you're using and what type of fish you're catching.
Well, I wonder what determines a timid fish and a bold fish. That's something that happens early on in life.
Yeah, different personalities. Fish. I know. I've heard stories of fish. Some are real friendly and some sort of hide out. Well, that sort of translates into nature, and they think this will have sort of ecological and consequences. If you overfish, I guess, by line or by net, so you're reeling in these different personalities.
And I guess the only fish that'll ever be left will be the timid fish, right?
Well, the ones that hide well, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so. So, maybe that's not a good thing.
So we're breeding out the boldness in fish.
And leaving out leaving the jellyfish.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Jeff, lovely to talk once again. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Me.
Jeff Dudas over there at underwatertimes.com. That's where you'll find those stories and a whole lot more.